Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something fundamental, something a lot of you have asked about, building real, lasting wealth.
Yeah, and we're going beyond just, spreadsheets and stock picks.
Exactly. We're looking at the whole system. So think financial theory,
Yeah.
sure, but also real estate mechanics, market history,
Mm.
and maybe most crucially, the sort of invisible stuff, your own habits.
That's the key, isn't it? We've pulled together a pretty wide range of sources: behavioral science, finance, even urban planning history, and sales psychology.
It's a big stack.
Yeah.
Our goal really is to give you a shortcut, a structured way to understand all these interconnected systems you need for long-term success in investing.
And hopefully help you sidestep some common pitfalls, maybe spot opportunities others miss. Because honestly, without grasping the psychology and the history, even a solid financial plan can just fall apart.
Right. You need the big picture and the small details, like understanding your own commitment, but also knowing how, say, zoning laws from decades ago still affect property values now.
It's that complete view we're aiming for.
Okay, so let's start maybe unexpectedly, not with the bank account, but with the brain. Specifically, habits, how they actually form.
Right. The research consistently points to this feedback loop. 4 steps: cue, craving, response, reward.
Cue, craving, response, reward.
Okay. And the whole point of any habit, good or bad, is basically to solve life's recurring problems using the least amount of energy possible. It's an efficiency thing for the brain.
Makes sense. Lazy brain.
Yeah, essentially. But that second step, the craving, that's where it gets really interesting psychologically.
How so?
Well, you don't actually crave the habit itself. You crave the change in state it gives you.
Okay, give me an example.
Like scrolling social media. You don't crave the scrolling motion, right? You crave the feeling it provides, maybe distraction, maybe a little dopamine hit, whatever it is.
Or brushing your teeth? You don't crave the brushing, you crave the clean mouth feeling.
Exactly. Every craving is tied to wanting to change your internal state somehow.
That's a really powerful distinction. Because if you're trying to break a bad habit, just focusing on stopping the action, that's tough.
It's often futile, yeah. You need to address the underlying craving or change the association with the cue.
Which brings us to those 4 laws of behavior change people talk about.
Right. Simple rules for building good habits. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying.
So applying that to investing, like maybe making your regular portfolio check-in satisfying by immediately logging your progress or a small win.
Precisely. Give yourself that immediate positive feedback. And the flip side works for breaking bad habits.
The 4 laws for elimination.
Yeah, basically the inverse. And the most effective strategy there is often attacking the cue. Just reduce your exposure to it.
Like the classic example, phone distracting you from work.
Put it in another room. Out of sight, out of mind. Or if it's, say, video games eating into your deal-finding time, unplug the console, stick it in a closet after you use it.
Make it less obvious, make it harder. Add friction.
You got it. Remove the trigger. Make the response difficult.
What about the time it takes? You always hear things like 21 days to form a habit.
Yeah, that's mostly myth. The research is pretty clear. Time itself doesn't really matter. There's no magic number of days.
So what does matter?
Frequency, the rate at which you do the behavior, how many times you repeat it.
So it's about reps, not calendar days.
Exactly. A new habit needs the same kind of repetition frequency as an old, ingrained one to become automatic, to cross what some experts call the habit line.
That makes a lot more sense. It's about embedding the pattern through practice.
And that need for frequency, for consistent action, ties directly into commitment, which is really the secret sauce in wealth building.
Okay, talk about commitment.
Well, the sources are really strong on this. Anyone can wish they were wealthy, right?
Yeah.
But the people who actually get there, they combine a real plan with what one source calls a burning desire, a deep commitment.
It's not just a nice to have.
No, it's essential. And it means learning to act on your commitments, not just your feelings day to day.
Like, you committed to analyzing 3 deals this week. You do it even if you wake up feeling unmotivated.
Yes, that's the jump in the cold water idea. Don't stand there shivering, thinking about how cold it is. Just jump in and get through it. Act on the decision you already made.
I like that. It counters that tendency to wait until you feel like it.
Which leads to another trap the research highlights: annualized thinking.
Annualized thinking. What's that?
It's that feeling that, oh, it's only January, I've got the whole year ahead of me, I can put off the important stuff.
Right. It creates this false sense of abundant time.
Yeah, it lulls you into procrastination. But success isn't built over a year. It's built today, this week. That's why things like the 12-week year model can be so effective. They create urgency.
Because a year from now, you'll definitely wish you'd started today.
Always. Painfully true.
And inevitably, when you're taking action, especially in complex things like investing, you're going to mess up sometimes. Deals fall through.
Absolutely. Failure is part of the process. The key is how you respond.
Not blame or guilt.
No, the focus has to be on accountability, which means, okay, acknowledge what happened in the reality and then figure out what you can do differently next time.
Treat mistakes as feedback, as data.
Exactly. Data points, not judgments on your character.
Okay, shifting gears a bit from the internal mindset to more external professional leverage, especially for folks in real estate or sales-driven investing. The database comes up a lot.
Oh, huge. The sources are emphatic. The size and quality of your database is directly proportional to the size and quality of your business. Full stop.
It's the core asset, maybe overlooked sometimes.
Often, people chase the next deal instead of cultivating the long-term asset, which is the network, the relationships stored in that database.
Like a long game. And to manage that, you need systems.
Obviously, systems are crucial, but there's a warning here too.
Which is?
Trying to build multiple complex systems all by yourself, from scratch, it can actually kill your productivity.
How so? Like
Yeah.
trying to build your own CRM software.
Yeah, or your perfect lead follow-up system and your transaction management workflow all at once. You end up spending all your time trying to be a systems designer instead of an investor or agent.
So leverage existing tools where possible.
Often the smarter move, especially early on. Find proven systems and adapt them. Don't reinvent every wheel.
Makes sense. And the last piece in this section seems to be continuous learning.
Non-negotiable for top performers. The research on, say, millionaire real estate agents shows they consistently invest 10, even 15% of their work time in learning.
Reading books, listening to tapes or podcasts, attending classes.
All of it. Because learning by doing gives you skill, which is
Yeah.
necessary, but learning by studying, that lets you borrow the experience, the mistakes, the wisdom of others.
It accelerates your learning curve dramatically, gives you foresight.
Exactly. That's the leverage of learning.
Okay, so we've got the mindset, the habits, the commitment. Let's dive into the financial mechanics now, specifically for real estate. First step, seemingly obvious, but maybe not. Understanding your own money.
Yeah, before you even think about returns or finding deals, you absolutely have to get a handle on your entire financial picture. And that means tracking everything, especially variable expenses, groceries, clothes, going out.
Because just earning more income isn't the magic bullet if you don't control spending.
Right. Our sources consistently show more income doesn't fix money problems unless you consciously choose to manage your finances, to budget, to control the outflow. That's where you find the capital to invest.
Foundational.
Yeah.
Okay, so you found some capital. Now we talk returns. But the language gets fuzzy here, doesn't it? ROI, cash on cash.
Very fuzzy. It's critical to be clear. We need to differentiate at least 3 key terms.
Go for it.
1, annual return. This is usually what people mean in casual conversation when they say ROI, the percentage gain you make in 1 year.
Okay, annual return, like 10% a year.
Right. 2, total return. That's the overall gain over the entire time you hold the investment, start to finish.
Got it. 3,
Cash on cash return. This one's really important for leveraged assets like real estate. It measures the actual cash income you receive back each year compared to the actual cash you put in your down payment, closing costs, etc.
so it focuses on the return on your specific out-of-pocket cash.
Exactly. Knowing which metric someone is talking about totally changes the analysis of a property's performance.
Definitely. And the big thing that makes real estate different, the thing that juices those returns, is leverage.
Absolutely. It's the force multiplier. But it's also where the risk ramps up significantly.
Let's use the example from the sources. Say you have $100,000 to invest. Option 1, buy a $100,000 house, all cash.
Okay. And let's say after all expenses, it generates $12,000 a year in net income. That's a 12% annual return on your $100,000 cash. Pretty straightforward.
Clean, simple. Now, option 2, leverage. Use that same $100,000 as a 20% down payment.
Right. So now you can control 5 similar $100,000 houses. You've got $400,000 in mortgages, but you own $500,000 worth of property.
And the end?
Well, from 5 properties, even after paying the mortgages, the total net income typically jumps. Let's say it's $18,000 a year in this example.
So you invested the same $100,000 cash.
But now your annual return on that cash is 18%. $100,000.
That's, wow, 50% better than the all-cash deal. 18% versus 12%.
That's the power of leverage.
Okay, hold on. You said risk ramps up. How? That 18% sounds amazing, but what's the catch? What makes the five-house portfolio riskier than the one house?
Great question. It's critical. The single all-cash house is stable, no debt payment hangs over your head.
Yeah.
The five-house portfolio, now you have 5 mortgage payments due every single month, whether you have tenants or not.
Okay. Debt obligation risk.
Huge. And vacancy risk is multiplied by 5. If one tenant leaves or defaults in the all-cash scenario, you lose 100% of that property's income, but your overall cash flow might be fine elsewhere. In the five-house scenario, one vacancy can mean losing 20% of your total rental income stream, which might put you underwater on payments.
Plus 5 times the potential for surprise repairs, right?
Yeah.
5 roofs, 5 water heaters.
Exactly. Your maintenance and capital expenditure exposure is 5 times greater. Lenders know this, which is why they require you to hold much larger cash reserves when you're leveraged across multiple properties.
So leverage magnifies returns, but it also magnifies risk and requires more cash on hand and, frankly, more management skill.
Absolutely. That 18% isn't free money. It comes with significantly higher volatility and management burden.
Got it. Puts it in perspective. So, assuming you understand the risks and want to proceed, how do you actually find the deals worth taking on that risk?
The sources draw a really sharp line here between being an investor, a shopper, and being a speculator.
What's the difference?
For the disciplined investor, the question, is this a great deal, is black and white, yes or no. It has to meet their strict, predefined criteria: price, terms, condition, location, whatever they are.
No gray area.
Right. The speculator lives in the gray area. They use phrases like, well, it might be a deal if, or maybe I can make this work. The successful investor, according to these sources, never compromises their criteria or terms.
Okay, so how do you find those yes-no deals?
It's compared explicitly to dating. You have to get out there into the market, talk to lots of people, agents, wholesalers, other investors, owners. Make offers, negotiate, get rejected, accept deals. It's a numbers game, requires massive action.
Any specific, maybe less obvious tactics mentioned?
Yeah, some interesting ones, like physically jogging a target neighborhood every month. You start to notice things the average person misses: a for sale sign that's been up way too long, subtle signs of deferred maintenance, maybe moving trucks, things that suggest motivation.
We need that ground level intelligence.
Exactly. Or, and this one is really insightful, talking to postal carriers.
Really? Mail carriers?
Think about it. They walk the neighborhood every day. They often know who's having financial trouble, who's getting ready to move, maybe even who's inherited a property long before it ever hits the MLS.
Yeah.
It's hyper-local, proprietary info if you build rapport.
That's clever. Real boots on the ground stuff.
And for investors looking to really accelerate, the sources point to mastering wholesaling.
Why wholesaling specifically?
Because it forces you to become excellent at one thing: marketing to find motivated sellers and discounted properties. That's the lifeblood.
And wholesalers often use that 70% rule as a guideline, right?
Yeah, it's a common benchmark. The formula is maximum allowable offer equals the after repair value, ARV, times 70%, then subtract the estimated repair costs and subtract your wholesaling fee.
MAO, ARV by 0.70 repairs fee.
You got it.
Now, the immediate reaction some listeners might have is, isn't offering 70% of ARV minus repairs kind of predatory?
That's a fair question. And yeah, to a seller who doesn't understand the value proposition, it could seem low. But wholesalers aren't targeting sellers who want top dollar and have time to wait.
They're targeting motivated sellers.
Exactly. People facing a difficult situation, maybe divorce, a job relocation they need to move for now, inherited property they don't want, pre-foreclosure. For these sellers, the value the wholesaler offers isn't maximum price. It's speed, certainty, and as a sale with no repairs, no showings, no commissions. A quick, clean solution to a problem.
So the 30% discount isn't just profit. It covers the wholesaler's fee, the holding cost, the repair risk, and leaves room for the end buyer, often a flipper, to make a profit too after doing the work.
Precisely. The wholesaler is solving a specific problem for a specific type of seller, and the price reflects the value of that immediate solution.
Okay. Another low-cost acquisition strategy mentioned is seller financing.
Hugely powerful. Can mean easier qualification, potentially lower or even no down payment sometimes, because you're negotiating directly with the homeowner, not a bank.
But there's a huge caveat here, right? A golden rule.
Absolutely non-negotiable. Seller financing is only recommended if the seller owns the property free and clear. No existing mortgage.
Why is that so critical?
Because almost every mortgage has a due on sale clause. If the title transfers like when you buy it, that clause gives the original lender the right to demand the entire remaining loan balance be paid back immediately.
Which would completely blow up your seller financing deal.
Instantly. You'd be forced to either pay off their old loan, which you likely can't, or lose the property. So free and clear only.
Is that common, though? People owning homes outright?
Surprisingly common. The data suggests around 29.3% of U.S. homeowners have no mortgage.
Wow, nearly a third.
Yeah. And often, these are folks in specific situations, retirees, empty nesters maybe, who might actually prefer owner financing, often called owner will carry, or OWC.
Why would they prefer it?
Taxes, primarily. If they sell for cash, they might face a huge capital gains tax bill all in one year. With seller financing, they receive payments over time, spreading out the principal gain and the resulting tax liability over many years. It can be a significant tax deferral strategy for them.
Interesting. So it can be a win-win in the right circumstances.
Definitely. Okay, shifting to the other side when you need financing, especially for commercial or larger investment properties, you gotta think like the lender.
What are they looking for?
History and numbers. For commercial deals, they'll want to see at least 2 full years of the property's historical operating statements, plus year-to-date figures and the current rent roll.
Why so much history?
They're looking for patterns, stability, and potential red flags. Are expenses consistent? Are rents increasing? Is there high tenant turnover? Any weird seasonal dips? They need to verify the income stream is reliable.
Makes sense. And then there are the key metrics they focus on. DCR.
Debt coverage ratio. Crucial. It's the property's net operating income, NOI, divided by the annual debt service, the total mortgage payments for the year.
NOI annual debt service, DCR. And lenders want to see.
Typically a DCR of at least 1.20, sometimes higher for riskier properties.
What does 1.20 actually mean?
It means the property generates 20% more net income than is needed just to cover the mortgage payments.
So for every $1 a mortgage payment due, the property brings in $1.20 of NOI.
Exactly. That 20% extra is the lender's safety cushion. It covers potential vacancies, unexpected repairs, slight market downturns, without jeopardizing their loan payment.
So as an investor, if you can show how you'll increase the NOI, maybe by adding amenities, cutting costs, raising rent slightly, you can improve the DCR and potentially get better loan terms.
That's the game. Value-add strategies directly impact your financing options.
Okay, the other big metric is LTV, loan to value.
Right. Simply the loan amount divided by the property's appraised value. For investment properties, lenders are more conservative than for primary homes. They'll typically want to see an LTV below 80%, and often 70% or even 65% is common.
Meaning you need a bigger down payment, 20%, 30%, maybe 35%.
Correct. And this is where appraisals can trip you up.
How so?
Let's say you agree to buy a place for $500,000. Your lender offers a 70% LTV loan, so $350,000. You're planning on putting down $150,000. But then the appraisal comes back at only $480,000.
Oh.
Right. The lender will only lend 70% of the appraised value, which is now just $336,000. To keep the deal alive at the agreed $500,000 purchase price, you suddenly need to come up with an extra $14,000 for the down payment. $150,000 planned plus $14,000 shortfall for only $164,000.
Ouch. So a low appraisal can force you to bring more cash to the table unexpectedly.
Happens all the time. You need to be prepared for that possibility.
Okay, this next section feels really important for context. We need to zoom out and look at the broader housing landscape, policy, society, how things got the way they are.
Absolutely essential. Because the property you buy doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's shaped by decades of policy and social forces.
Let's start with zoning. The sources are pretty direct about this.
They are. Things like exclusionary zoning ordinances, rules that mandate only single-family homes, often on large lots, have historically been very effective tools for, well, for keeping lower-income families, which disproportionately included African Americans, out of middle-class neighborhoods.
Basically by making housing there unaffordable for them.
Right. If you can only build expensive single-family homes, you create an economic barrier. And this wasn't accidental.
You mean it connects to older policies?
Directly. Look at the early history of the Federal Housing Administration, the FHA. Our sources state that from its inception, the FHA had an explicit racial policy. Its goal was to protect the character, meaning the whiteness of neighborhoods.
Wow. They actually did that?
Yes, they literally sent agents out to prevent minorities from buying homes in white areas. This practice, known as redlining, systematically denied mortgages and insurance in minority neighborhoods while promoting investment in white suburbs. It's a foundational reason for the huge generational wealth gap we still see today.
That's stark. understanding that history really reframes current neighborhood dynamics.
It absolutely does. And even programs designed to help can sometimes perpetuate these patterns, maybe unintentionally.
Like Section 8 housing vouchers.
Yeah, the research points out that the voucher amount is often just too low to cover rent in safer, middle-class, low-poverty areas.
So where do families using vouchers end up?
Disproportionately clustered in higher poverty neighborhoods. Data from 2010 showed over half rented in areas with poverty rates of 20% or more. Very few were able to access low-poverty neighborhoods with the voucher.
So the program, while helping with affordability, might also contribute to resegregation.
That's the concern raised. It highlights how complex these issues are. An investor needs to be aware of this history and these ongoing dynamics because they influence property values, community resources, and potential political risks or opportunities.
Speaking of policy debates, what about rent control? Always a hot topic.
It is. And the sources here point to a pretty strong consensus among economists.
Which is?
That price controls generally, and rent control specifically, tend to lead to shortages and declines in quality.
Why does quality decline?
Simple economics. If a landlord's revenue is capped by law, but their costs, maintenance, taxes, utilities, keep rising, they have less money and less incentive to maintain the property well. So repairs get deferred, buildings deteriorate, quantity declines because developers have less incentive to build new rental housing if they can't charge market rates.
Is there evidence of this?
The material cites the example of Massachusetts. When rent control ended there, it was followed by a wave of new apartment construction for the first time in about 25 years. It suggests the controls were suppressing supply.
So, while perhaps well-intentioned to help tenants, the long-term economic effects might be negative for housing overall.
That's the argument presented by the vast majority of economists, according to the sources.
Okay, let's shift from policy to the actual physical structure of cities and homes. How did American houses evolve?
Well, early on, American houses started diverging from English models, mainly due to climate. The big one was the porch, the veranda. Much more necessary here to deal with summer sun and heat before air conditioning.
Makes sense. Keep the house cooler.
Right. And early floor plans often had features promoting flexibility, like pocket doors between, say, the parlor and dining room, so you could open them up into one big space for entertaining.
Then we get into distinct architectural styles.
Yeah, reflecting different eras and social values. After the Civil War, you see the neoclassical revival. Think big, two-story columns, very grand, projecting order and status.
Then Frank Lloyd Wright comes along.
And develops the prairie style. Uniquely American, low-slung, horizontal lines, trying to blend with the landscape, very popular up until World War I.
And after WWI.
The craftsman style really took off, especially the bungalow. The name itself comes from the Hindi word bangala, reflecting a sort of romantic colonial influence. But the style emphasized simpler living, craftsmanship, natural materials, cozy.
So these styles reflect changing ideas about home and status.
Definitely. And they set the stage for the huge transformation after World War II, decentralization, the rise of the suburbs.
Which is more than just split-level houses popping up everywhere.
Oh, much more. The fundamental shift was the relocation of jobs. Workplaces moved out of the central city.
To the suburbs.
Yes. By 1970, in 9 of the 15 largest metro areas, the suburbs, not the downtown core, were the main source of employment.
Wow. That's a massive shift.
Huge. And that's why the word beltway entered the language. Those ring roads and expressways built around cities attracted the offices and factories, pulling economic gravity away from the traditional center.
Understanding that decentralization is key to understanding modern metro areas. Okay, last piece in this section. The nitty-gritty of actually managing properties once you own them. Lease types.
2 main types. Term leases, usually a year, lock in both the tenant and the landlord. Provide stability, predictable income.
And the other.
Month-to-month agreements, these offer flexibility. The sources argue this gives the landlord a big stick.
A big stick? Meaning?
Meaning, if a tenant becomes problematic, disruptive, consistently late with rent, whatever the landlord can terminate the lease relatively quickly with proper notice, usually 30 days, without needing to prove fault in court like you might with a term lease eviction. It reduces the risk of being stuck with a bad tenant.
Interesting trade-off. Stability versus flexibility and control.
Exactly. And whatever lease you use, it needs to be incredibly specific about rules and regulations.
Even seemingly obvious stuff.
Especially the obvious stuff. Think about liability. You need rules like no cooking in bedrooms, Clear fire hazard, no slamming doors, no stomping on floors, prevents noise complaints between tenants. No vehicle maintenance on the premises avoids oil spills, environmental issues, insurance risks.
Spell it all out to avoid ambiguity and disputes later.
Absolutely. Clarity prevents conflict.
And what about the toughest part? Dealing with late rent.
The sources are pretty blunt here. Late rent isn't just an inconvenience. The tenant is essentially using your asset for free, which is costing you money. It's described almost like theft from the landlord's perspective.
Strong words. So how do you handle it?
Consistency and consequences. The only way to combat chronic late payments is to enforce the consequence laid out in the lease, the late fee, immediately, every single time. No exceptions, no emotional appeals.
Back to that act on commitment, not feelings idea. Apply the system.
Exactly. If you let it slide once, the boundary is broken and the behavior will likely continue or worsen. Enforce the lease terms strictly.
All right, let's pull the lens back again for our final section. Look at broader investment theory, market psychology, things that apply beyond just real estate. First up, the idea that markets are predictable.
Or rather, the illusion of predictability. This brings us to the random walk theory. The weak form basically says you can't predict future stock prices based on past stock prices.
Why not? Don't trends exist?
The theory argues that all known information is already baked into the current price. For new information to move the price, it has to be, well, new and unpredictable. If you could predict the news, it wouldn't be news, right?
Makes sense. The original analogy was pretty vivid, wasn't it?
Yeah, comparing stock price movements to a drunk man staggering randomly around a field, you know he's moving, but his next step is anyone's guess, irrational and unpredictable.
So if prices aren't perfectly rational, what drives them?
Often, it's market sentiment, collective emotion, psychology. We see it in price-to-earnings ratios, or PE multiples.
How so?
In times of extreme optimism, investors might pay crazy high multiples. The sources mentioned periods where stocks sold for over 80 times their annual earnings because everyone expects massive future growth.
And in bad times?
The opposite. Pessimism takes over. Like in 1982, a market bottom, stocks were trading at only 8 times earnings. Huge swing based purely on outlook.
And interest rates play a role in these multiples too, right?
Big role. They're inversely related. When interest rates are low, money is cheap. Future earnings seem more valuable today, so PE multiples tend to be high.
And when rates go up?
Cost of capital increases, future earnings are discounted more heavily, PE multiples compress, and stock prices often fall, even if the company's actual earnings haven't changed.
Good reminder of the macro influence. Okay, risk management. What about holding riskier assets, like small cap stocks?
The research shows portfolios with more volatile assets, like small company funds, can definitely have rough years, maybe lose half their value in a crash.
Scary. But the upside?
Historically, over the very long term, they have tended to outperform the broader market averages, but often only by small amounts.
So the key isn't just picking them, it's
Having the stomach, the staying power, as one source puts it, you have to be able to hold on through those brutal downturns without panicking and selling at the bottom. That emotional discipline is crucial.
which is a big argument for index funds, isn't it? For the average person.
It really is. Index fund investing gets called guaranteed mediocrity sometimes because you'll never hit a home run, you just get the market average.
Okay.
But the data conclusively shows that most index fund investors actually end up with better results than people trying to pick stocks or paying active fund managers.
Why? Is it just luck?
Not really. It's mostly about costs. Active fund managers charge high fees for their expertise, and they tend to trade frequently, which racks up transaction costs and can trigger capital gains taxes.
Index funds just track the market, low fees, low turnover.
Exactly. By keeping costs incredibly low and just matching the market, you avoid the fees and the common mistakes active managers make trying to time the market or pick winners. Over time, that cost advantage compounds significantly.
Okay, let's bring taxes back into the real estate picture.
Yeah.
Depreciation. How powerful is that?
Immensely powerful. It's a tax deduction the IRS allows you to take for the theoretical wear and tear on a building over time, even if the property is actually going up in market value.
So it's a paper loss.
Essentially, it reduces your taxable income from the property. Let's use an example. You buy a rental for $100,000, excluding land value. Over 5 years, let's say you claim $20,000 in depreciation deductions.
Okay, so that $20,000 reduced your taxable rental income over those 5 years.
Correct. Now, here's the key. That depreciation also reduces your adjusted cost basis in the property. Your original $100K cost basis is now down to $80K.
Why does that matter?
It matters when you sell. If you sell later for, say, $130,000, your actual cash profit seems like $30,000. 130K sale, $100K cost.
Right.
But for tax purposes, your gain is calculated as sale price minus adjusted cost basis. So $130,000 minus $80,000. Your taxable gain is $50,000.
Ah, so you pay tax on a larger gain eventually, but you received $20,000 of that gain effectively tax-free along the way to the deductions.
Exactly. That's the tax shelter aspect. It improves your cash flow during ownership by reducing your current tax bill. You pay the tax back later via depreciation recapture, but the time value of money makes this hugely advantageous.
And there are even more advanced strategies.
Oh, yeah. You can potentially get tax-free growth using self-directed Roth IRAs for real estate, though that's complex. And the ultimate strategy for deferring, or really eliminating capital gains, is the dying while owning strategy.
That's a morbid but intriguing.
Huh? Yeah, the idea is you use 1031 exchanges throughout your life to swap properties and defer capital gains taxes indefinitely if you still own the properties when you pass away.
What happens?
Your heirs inherit the property, and the cost basis steps up to the fair market value at the date of your death. All those decades of deferred capital gains are just wiped out. Permanently tax-free transfer of that appreciation.
Wow. That's powerful long-term planning.
Very powerful. Okay, final topic. Dealing with crisis and information asymmetry when one side knows more than the other.
Especially relevant after the 2008 financial crisis.
Absolutely. In any high-stakes situation, complex negotiation, volatile market, the biggest danger often comes from what Nassim Taleb called black swans, those totally unexpected, high-impact events nobody saw coming, or, relatedly, those unknown unknowns.
Things you don't even know you don't know.
Exactly. Finding those hidden pieces of information or hidden risks can completely change the game.
The sources use credit default swap, CDS, from the crisis as an example.
Yeah, it was a classic case of information asymmetry. CDS were like insurance on bundles of mortgages. As the mortgages started going bad, the big Wall Street firms holding them knew how toxic they were.
But the buyers of the CDS, the insurers, didn't have the same visibility.
Not initially. And worse, because there wasn't a transparent market for these things, the firms holding the bad assets were often observed dictating the price of the CDS based on what they needed their books to show, not the actual underlying risk. They marked them to their model, not to reality.
And the party taking on all that mispriced risk was...
Often, the giant insurer AIG, which was supposed to be super safe, AAA rated, they took the other side of these bets without fully grasping the hidden systemic risk until it was too late. Catastrophic asymmetry.
A chilling example. How does this apply to more everyday negotiations, say, buying a property?
Understanding psychology is key. For example, if you make an offer as a price range, I'll offer between $300,000 and $320,000. What happens?
The seller immediately anchors on $320K, right? Or maybe you anchor on $300K if you're the seller hearing that.
Exactly. The other party will gravitate to the end of the range that benefits them. So ranges can be tricky. Sometimes it's better to pivot off price altogether if you hit a deadlock.
Oh.
Suggest non-monetary terms. Offer value in other ways. Maybe you can offer a faster closing, or let the seller rent the house back for a few months after closing if they need time. Things that cost you little, but are valuable to them.
Get creative beyond just the dollar amount.
Right, and maintain emotional intelligence. The concept of yielding in negotiation comes up.
Yielding doesn't mean giving in.
No, not at all. It means responding thoughtfully instead of reacting defensively or emotionally when the other side makes a tough demand or challenges you. It's about staying calm, acknowledging their point, maybe asking clarifying questions.
Building trust, de-escalating tension.
Exactly. Yielding in that sense can actually open the door to finding solutions that work for everyone, going beyond just haggling over the last dollar.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground. From the micro-level habits that drive daily action,
to the macro-level economic forces, historical contexts like zoning, and financial mechanics like leverage and DCR.
it really feels like building wealth isn't about one magic bullet. It's about understanding and applying these systematic behaviors and principles within fields where you grasp the rules of the game, the economic drivers, the tax advantages, the market cycles.
And success really seems to hinge on knowing those details, from lender requirements to lease clauses to the history that shaped the neighborhood you're investing in.
So to wrap this up, what's the final thought we want to leave listeners with?
Well, tying it all together, in a world that's changing so incredibly fast, what you know today might be outdated tomorrow. Static knowledge isn't the biggest asset anymore.
So what is?
The truly priceless skill is how fast you learn. Your ability to adapt, to absorb new information, to understand emerging systems.
So the provocative question for you, the listener, is what complex systems or emerging trends, maybe in finance, technology, policy, local markets, should you start monitoring daily? How can you intentionally accelerate your learning rate, effectively borrowing the experience of others to stay ahead?
Because that continuous, systematic pursuit of relevant knowledge, that's probably the highest return investment you can make in yourself right now.